And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for another episode of the Written Undead podcast. Jennifer has brought us a wonderful guest for this week. Jennifer, could you let us know who we're hanging out with?
Well, today, everybody, we are hanging out with Reverend Michael Carter. This man is he's a reverend at a Unitarian church,
Yep,
and
Unitarian Universalist.
he's got many books out for us to read. And the one thing that we are extremely interested in is his how he kind of meshes his Christianity, beliefs in the Bible and God with aliens. So this is what we're talking about today, and I'm super excited for that. So, Reverend, is it okay if we call you? Do you want us to call you Reverend? You want us to call
You can
you?
call me Michael. I just want to correct something. I'm not a Christian anymore. I'm not a
Oh,
Christian.
Ah,
oh, thank you.
Yeah, but in the Unitarian Universalist world, because we have Unitarian Christians,
Yeah.
I was raised Baptist. We'll get into that, but I just wanted to correct that. I'm not. I
Thank
look at
you.
Jesus in a very different way now than I
hmm.
did.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, that's mine.
That's okay. Most people think that.
I
Because
I
went
thought
to
I had it turned
seminary.
all the way
I
down.
went to seminary. I am ordained. I've got my degrees. Um, I put it like this: what I believe Christians would say, you're not a Christian, and and in their
Got it.
world, they're probably right. In my world, maybe not, but for them, I'm not so.
Got it. So go
Got
ahead and
it.
give us a little bit of your background.
I was raised a Baptist. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, originally. Um, I moved to New York City. Um, wow, when did I move? I moved to New York City in late 80s, early 90s to pursue a career in the theater. Had my 15 minutes of fame there, did some off Broadway stuff, did some commercials, that kind of thing. But I was never really happy with it because I wanted to serve. And when I was a child, I knew I was going to be doing something. I thought I was just going to stay a minister, which I have so far. But I wanted to be a priest. I wanted to be a minister. And so I left the theater and went to seminary. So wound up pursuing a dream. And I tried to fit a round key in a square hole, looking for historical Jesus, just looking for inconsistencies. And it just didn't work for me anymore, even though I still look at Jesus as my brother, but I don't worship him.
Hmm.
Um, and
Okay.
so I do lean more towards Eastern thought because it's less duality, right, wrong, black, white, because life is a little more complicated than that. And I did some studying, and then when I had my UFO experiences, it really had me looking at Christianity a different way. And I know some of my Christian friends say, "Oh, well, that was the devil doing that." Well, that's an argument. Um, but the Unitarian Church, I found a place where I could explore without being told I was wrong or we need to pray for you or what have you. And it brought me to where I am today, and I'm very happy where I am. That kind of thing. I believe love. I bring a message of love, which I think transcends all religious beliefs. And so I'm doing my life's mission. That's the truncated version. I know we'll get into details as we move on.
So now, at what age did you start feeling like you
Hey,
needed
Jack.
to? Hello. At what age were you when you started feeling like you had a different path than maybe what others would have thought for you?
That's a great question. I'm trying to pin it down. If you're asking when I thought I was going to be an actor and everybody else said you should get a job at the post office, that was that was in because it was security. Nothing wrong with the post office.
Right.
My fiance's dad, when he was alive, worked there, put his time in. Um, I was just different. I read a lot. I wrote a lot. I wasn't a macho person, even though I grew up in the projects. And I'm an inner city person, concrete. Now, not anymore. I live in the woods here. I love it. But that's what
Ah,
I knew at the
just like
time.
me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. When I go back to New York, man, I'm like, whoa, because I
Yeah,
love it.
I know. I
It
grew up in New
messes
York.
with it
It's too
messes
much.
with you, man. It
It
can mess
does.
with you. But
Hmm
Jack, your question, before I started seeing these star people, I was already on a path where I was, I was moving away from the dogma of the Baptist church. I was moving away from that because the theology didn't work for me anymore. I was meeting people, black, white, rich, poor, gay, straight, blue state, red state. I was meeting folks now, and they were beautiful. And I was like, why would a God damn them to hell because they didn't agree? You know what I'm saying? So I
Right.
started reading Kierkegaard and Camus and existentialists and Sartre and I started reading about the occult and psychic phenomenon and reading tarot cards and doing all this stuff. So I was
Mm-hmm.
already getting prepared because life was bigger. It took
Mm-hmm.
me a while because I could, but I couldn't keep on the theology because especially in the black church, man, it's all that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yep.
It's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, but when the music stops, it's still us versus them.
Mm.
It's still saved, and you're not, and so it just didn't work for me anymore. But my parents hold true to it, and I know good people who hold on to that belief, and I say good for you. So I would say probably in my mid-20s, um, I just had to say I found Unitarian Christianity, and what was good about Unitarian Christianity was that Jesus was still Jesus, but we focused more on his humanity.
Mm.
And when he said, "Greater works than I do, you can do," um, uh, and so I started looking at him as my brother by equal, in the sense that he was who he was, but who he was is potential in me. I'm not talking about miracles and walking on water, but just to live a committed life, just to have this unconditional love, even unto death. Um, but then when I had the ET experiences,
Mm.
and I was like, oh, and none of that went away.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, well, wait a minute. He was kind of hanging out with these people, and maybe some of these religious people are trying to tell us that they were, these flying chariots. And I started looking at it differently. Other people did before me. I can give you a list of other ministers before me, but I had the experience. And if they had the experience, they weren't telling, which I don't mind. I mean, I almost got fired. I mean, someone tried to have me fired because they turned on
Mm.
the TV and said, my pastor is talking about little green men. That's their words. So
Uh-huh.
Mm.
probably
Surprise.
in
Uh-huh.
my mid-20s,
Mm.
early 30s, uh, and I just started making that kind of turn. I mean, the books I went and got, these are Bibles. I'm not here to promote my books. I mean, we'll talk about it, but I went to get my Bibles because I want to be able, because it's a beautiful book. It's got life lessons in it. It's
Mhm.
not a UFO book. It's a book about life. The prose in it is beautiful. Uh, so I still use it, in other words.
Okay.
Yeah, I still use it.
Now, how much trouble, because you talked about, oh, somebody went and snitched on you for, talking about little green men or whatever. I
Yeah.
guess because I grew up in the church, and my parents about had a fit when they found out that I had decided to go pagan,
Of
and I'm wondering,
course.
how, what did you did you have to explain to them, or did you just like, I don't need to explain this to you
You mean
if
to
you
my
can't,
parents? To my
to
parents?
your congregation even?
No, no, no.
Everybody.
No. It took me a while.
Mhm.
I was like, no, I don't want to use that phrase because this is I don't know what gay and trans brothers and sisters go through, so I don't want to belittle it. But I was kind of like in a closet, and
Okay.
I wouldn't talk about it except with certain friends.
Yes.
And I wrote a book, but when I wrote the book, oh no, before I wrote my first book, I would go to conferences and I write articles. I didn't have a book to sell, so I sell my articles for $1, $2, and whatever. And
Mhm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
but a publisher, uh, Barbara DeBolt, Blue Star Publications. She's probably crossed over, and that publication. She was in Arizona, and she said basically, look, she didn't use these words. She said you got to put your big boy pants on. She said, you've got to tell people what happened to you because you're going to be helping them. You can't be sitting back behind it. And yeah, she was right. And people laughed and they ridiculed me, but I laugh now because now the government's talking about what we were talking
Exactly.
about 20 years
Right.
ago. But
Yes,
but but I don't laugh. It's like, haha, got you. But it's just if you hang in long enough and time goes,
it
um,
does.
but no, my parents were like, they don't get into it because they don't know how to get into it. I didn't have to explain anything to them. The people who tried to get me fired, they didn't like me for other reasons, but that was
Mm.
the key. But what had happened was that in the Unitarian Universalist denomination, the
Mhm.
Hmm.
minister's not the boss, the congregation is. So I work for
Right.
you have a board of trustees, democratically elected. And
Nice.
so she said she wanted to come to a board meeting. She did. And they said, he's not forcing this down our throats. He's not
Mhm.
preaching this from the pulpit, even though now I bring it up from time to time. And they see me
Hmm.
on Ancient Aliens and they see me on these TV shows.
Mhm.
And they said that he's probably right. We maybe not be the only ones. So I dodged a bullet and they stood up for me. But there
Wow.
were other ministers who said, I remember one minister, I told her about my experiences, and she said, Michael, I believe that you believe what you say is true. But if you want to have a career in this denomination, you must never repeat that story again.
Wow.
Hmm.
And I didn't. I didn't. But now I do. And they've had people have come to the church and shot documentaries about it, and some people see the shows, and we have a little group that talks about metaphysics and stuff like that. But it took
Nice.
us a while to get there, but I never force it. And I've had people come to the church. They were visiting North Carolina and said, oh, I said, no, this is not a UFO church, this is
Mm-mm.
a church. um, but so I don't, no, I don't preach on that. I may bring it up. I may, and they may giggle or they may go, yeah, but I don't do sermons on,
Right.
that kind of ancient aliens or things
Right.
like
Okay, now I've looked up the word because I never really truly understood what it meant. And even after reading the definition, I'm still not 100%
that. Which word?
knowledgeable of it. Metaphysics.
Oh.
In your definition, could you
Okay.
explain that?
Metaphysics, and from a spiritual standpoint, it's like new thought, where you're looking at life from a higher point of view. So you're looking at it from a higher altitude. So it's beyond the physical. It's like if I want to, well, quantum physics talks about it now. If
Yep.
I want the other day, I've been having some money problems. Well, I always think I do when I really don't. I was raised with scarcity. My
Right.
parents did during the Depression. And
Hmm.
so and sometimes I forget that my needs are always taken care of. And so metaphysics, quantum physics is like when you focus on what you want, you can manifest that. But
Hmm.
most of us focus on what we don't want. And as Einstein says, this is not philosophy, this is physics.
Hmm.
Okay, this is not some woo woo. And quantum physics is now catching up with what a lot of saints and avatars taught us.
Yep.
It's done to you as you believe. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not going to have challenges or things happen to you, but it's how you respond to them. So,
Yep.
for instance, this computer I have, I need a computer. I needed a computer. And uh, I uh, I have a church computer, but I got stuff on the church computer that really shouldn't be on the computer, like my finances or
Right.
my articles, and so I needed a computer. And a friend of mine at the church said, "I got a computer," but this was like for 2 months, and I kept saying, "I got to get a computer. How am I going to do this? Because right now I got other responsibilities." And make a long story short, a buddy of mine at church had a computer for me, but it didn't work. Okay,
Hmm.
but my
Ah.
my partner, she said, you know what? I just thought of this. We got two old computers from IT. Got it. You want one? So this is the one that I'm working with you on. So I, I,
Wow.
I focused on it, and it came. I got a lot going on in my life right now. I'm getting married. I got to fly out to LA tomorrow after church to shoot a TV show. I was just on Ancient Aliens shooting something a couple weeks. My life is hectic, planning a wedding and money, and these things came up. A new TV show, it's not new. Lawrence Fishburne is the host. It's called America's Greatest Mysteries. I don't
Oh,
know these
cool.
people. I never met
Oh,
them. They called me the other day. I'm flying to LA tomorrow to shoot
Oh my
Monday.
gosh, how fun.
yeah, that
Austin,
sounds
we just
great.
got it. So I'm just saying because most people, we focus on what we don't want.
But
Correct.
that kind of goes with the law of attraction. Then you're attracting what you
That's all
don't
it
want
is.
to you. Yes.
So my brother here that's what we're talking about. Looking for, I'll give you an example, praying. I was taught, dear God, this, dear God, that, dear God, this, dear God, that.
Mhm.
I don't really focus on that anymore. I do pray, but when I pray, it's more like I'm just sending energy out and receiving it. You could call it meditation, call it what you want.
Mhm.
But I just, like, if I need more money, I don't go, dear God, please send me money. I sit still and I focus on, I know that all my needs are taken care of before I even ask.
Mhm.
And I just affirm what I want. If more money is needed, more money will be there. If a healing is needed, a healing will be there. So my whole concept of God, for lack of a better word, changed after my UFO experiences, even before then, because it's more abstract. It's more abstract. It's not a man or woman up in the sky. It's more like I'm part of this whole cosmos. And when I'm still enough
Mhm.
and stop getting scared and stop
Mhm.
worrying and be still, there's an old saying, to the mind that is still, the entire universe surrenders. So it's more that it's in me. So that's more of the metaphysical principle. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it actually does. And
I
Yeah.
like
quick
how you
comment from
answered that.
Well
quick
done.
comment from one of our good friends, Jeff Thompson. He says, "Chance favors the prepared mind."
Yeah, oh
Mhm.
yeah, brother Jeff wrote that. Yeah, it just went off. I was wondering, my eyesight is kind of, anyway, yeah, it
Okay.
does. It does. And so and but I'm glad that I used to be Baptist. I'm
Mhm.
glad that I can talk the Bible talk because
Mhm.
I can meet brothers and I can use their language. Do you know what I mean? If they
Yeah.
Right,
say
right.
God,
I
I
got
may
you.
be thinking something else, but I know what they mean when they say God. And if I don't know what they mean, I will say, tell me what your concept of God is. And I'll tell you what mine is. So we'll know where we're kind of missing each other or what have you.
Mhm.
And that way I can build a bridge. Now, some people don't want to build bridges, and that's okay. But it gives me a chance to walk in and work. Yeah, brother
Mhm.
Yubel here. He sounds like a Buddhist. Yeah, just chill. Let it
Just chilling,
flow.
let
Well,
it play.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
I
Hmm.
don't
Because
know
it
if he
will
calls
work.
it meditation or if he calls it just smoking out, but he's
Well,
Yeah, I mean,
it's all good. It's all
I probably
good.
think the nada. I
yeah.
think it's the nada.
Brother
He's a cool
Yubel, he
dude.
knows what time it is.
He does. He does.
So yeah, and then because otherwise we're gonna kill each other, man. I swear. Either
Yes.
either
You're
either
not kidding. You're not kidding.
a big rock is gonna hit us, or
Mhm.
it's gonna get real hot and it's gonna get real wet.
Well,
Yeah.
it is
And it
hot.
can
Yeah.
happen anyway. But as long as each day I try to love, I try to remember the OJ song, "Stay on the Love Train." You know, the love train. It's hard. The tickets
Hmm.
are high, but otherwise, because arguing about people about who they sleep with, or if you're red and I'm blue and you're green, and it
It's
sounds
old and
cliche,
played
but
out.
that's
Listen.
petty. And while
Uh-huh.
we're arguing over that, people are
Yep.
making money on us. They're
Exactly.
Hmm.
making
Yeah,
money on this.
exactly.
Oh,
That's why I tell
yeah,
everybody. I try to tell
That's
people that
part of
too.
Christianity,
yeah,
though, just for
yeah.
the record on that.
What's
As
that,
What's
long
Rich?
as
that?
What's
as
that?
long as we fight each other,
Well, I
we're
mean,
laughing all the way to the bank.
hey,
All the way.
hey, Michael,
Hey,
Rich
brother
Rose. I'm
Rose.
sorry you didn't get a chance to. I didn't get a chance to introduce myself before the show, so it's very great having you on the show. I'm
Hey, brother
excited.
Rose.
I got a
Good to see
thousand
you.
questions. I know I'll only
Sure.
get to a few, but I just want to make one
Well, we got
comment.
2 hours. We got
We
two
do
hours.
have 2 hours,
Yeah,
and we also have the possibility of having him on later.
well, I
Yeah,
want to
I'll
knock
come
at
back.
least 500 of them today. Then,
Yeah, I'll come back. I might not have all the answers, but it's fun to kick it around.
all right. I just want to throw out there, I am a Christian, and you know, Jesus didn't teach us to be judgmental. Didn't teach us to
Right.
ostracize people because of their sexual orientation or the color of their skin or anything. Jesus taught the exact opposite. So, just throwing that out there before anybody, because Christians get a bad rap a lot of times.
Yeah. Hey,
Again,
Richard. Hey, Richard. I grew up Catholic, Richard, and I'm a Christian now, so I totally understand your
yeah,
point.
they do. But see,
Mhm.
the problem with that is the reason Christians get a bad rap is that we've let, all of us have, we've let another group co-opt what a Christian means.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Mhm. Exactly.
Before I moved away from Christianity, and who knows, maybe, I used to say, I'm not a Christian, I'm a follower of the teachings of Jesus. Because the teachings of Jesus are different than Christianity. They are.
Well, there's
You
still the
know,
human element.
but whatever you want to call yourself, you have to live it. And I don't paint
I
all
agree.
Christians with the same brush because
Nope.
I have
You
people in my
You
can't.
can't.
family
No,
that
you
are.
can't.
You
Right.
can't. But I know that the people many of the people calling themselves Christians now, I'm not sure. But I'm not
I'm with
talking
you.
about you. I'm talking about there's a segment of our country who is using Christianity. And even Jesus said, if I'm correct, everybody who calls me Lord, Lord, is not going to enter the kingdom. And so, I love it. I love it that you stand up for your faith, and I love it. And we need more of that. And we'll see what we can do to change the frequency of the planet. As Christians, as pagans, as people who don't know and don't care, as atheists. I mean, it's because basically we're trying to get to the same place, I believe, but we just find different ways to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
That's
I
fair.
Right.
really, I
Right.
really appreciate that, and I was going to say earlier, I appreciate your definition of metaphysical because, like Jack said, a lot of people don't know. I used to
Mhm.
have a metaphysical shop,
Mhm.
and
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was the exact same thing. Metaphysical is that beyond the physical plane of
Mhm.
existence. So
Yeah.
spiritualistic things and things that you use. Metaphysical shop for me was the things that we use to worship our deities, our higher powers or what have you. And I didn't care who you were. I had Christians come to my shop and they would we'd have days where we would just sit there and crochet.
Hmm.
We had Catholics and Christians come and just crochet with us. I that's the exact area that I was trying to foster was where people could go to feel safe and feel comfortable talking about anything. And it
Yeah.
didn't have to be religious. It was just
No. It's
come
like
and
it's
chill
like a
out.
it's like a UU church, and that's the thing
Yes,
with Jack.
yes.
If you do check it out, Jack, because my sermon title, the second one is called Atheism 2.0, but the first one is called The Spirituality of the Atheist. And I know people will say, "What do you mean spirituality and atheism?" Of course, they're compatible. When I'm talking about because I know some, I have a good friend who's an atheist. He used to be a Benedictine monk, and he's one of the most spiritual people I know. And he would use the word, but my point is when I talk about spiritual, I'm not talking, and I'm talking about the cultivation of your inner life. I'm
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
talking about where you stand. This is what my ethics are. This is where I draw my lines in the sand. This is how I think the universe works and my place in it. That's your inner life. And you can cultivate that through literature, through art, through meditation, through prayer. That's when I talk about when I mean spiritual. I'm not talking about what crystal you wear
Hmm.
or how many auras you say you read. Or
Well, see, my big thing, my,
that's nothing. Or how psychic you are. I'm not talking about that.
well, see, like my big thing, I'm obviously an atheist, which essentially, if you just go brass tacks on it, means I just don't believe in anything. I believe we're born,
Yeah.
we live, we die. That's it.
Yes.
You're just gone.
Yeah.
Correct.
But
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't mean that it gives me a free pass to be an ass to people, in
Exactly.
life. So one thing
Wow.
that is actually in the Bible is the whole "do unto others as you would have them do unto you." I live by that.
Yeah.
That's just
And
how
that's
I
it.
go through life. I try to
Well,
treat
well,
people
well,
like I
well,
want to be treated.
that's what I'm mentioning. Rabbi Hillel, he lived in Babylon in around 1163 BCE, and he says, and he was a rabbi. He says that you do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The rest is commentary. The rest is commentary.
Very true. Now you just said BCE. What's the
Yeah.
E for?
Before the Common Era,
Okay.
because
Why?
Yeah, because
Yep.
people used to go AD and BC, but
BC.
everybody's not Christian.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
so we mark our calendars differently. So BCE is before the Common Era, and CE is Common
It,
Era. It's just
after the
Okay.
comment, right?
yeah,
Right.
Okay.
it's
Very
just
cool. Now
using the
I'm
calendar in a different way.
sitting there learning stuff
Okay.
left and right today. Holy
Yeah.
smoly! This is very, very
Told you he was
cool.
going to be good.
I got a question. Yeah, kind of going back to the whole alien thing, and like a lot of fellow Christians believe that we can't have one. We can't
Without
have
the other.
Christianity. We can't have God and Jesus and all that, and have aliens at the
Of
same
course
time.
you can. Of
They can't coexist.
course you can.
I don't agree with that. I think they can. I
Of course
believe
you
in
can.
Well, if you're talking about an omnipotent, all-powerful deity, they can do whatever the heck they want. If they want to
I
have
mean,
50
My
look at
mom
aliens
well.
across the
actually
galaxy,
said,
I mean,
because
Jack.
my
I
mom's a
mean,
born again Christian, and she actually said if there were other beings on other worlds, Jesus would have to go to those worlds and die for them too. That was her reasoning.
I
And
mean,
I'm
Jack.
like,
oh, hang on just a second, guys. I got to
I
help
don't
mom
even.
get her sling back on.
Okay.
okay.
All
Yeah,
right.
so I was just kind of my mom is very much a very Bible believing born again Christian. She
Mm-hmm.
is very solid in her faith, and I applaud her for that. But when she said that, I was just kind of like, that doesn't even make sense to me
Mhm.
at all.
Mhm.
I don't know. So I mean, I it's just one of those things where I don't know um how people can separate the two, how they think that we are just the only, we have all this universe, and let's say it was created, there was no big bang or anything like that. Some people believe that. Let's just say there is a creator, and let's say that he created all this space. So you're telling me that us right here, we're it? I find that very hard to believe.
You know what, Jen? I'm going to suggest something.
Yes, sir.
And I got this from Taoism and Eastern religions. If you want to coexist with your mom, because I have that woman and my half sister. We just don't talk. We don't talk about those things
Hmm.
because it's just we just don't agree. But
Yeah.
the second thing is, which I think is most important, is you just have to give up wanting to be right.
Yep.
You know,
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
when you can live your life and not have to be right,
Yep.
it brings so much peace.
It's
It
very
really
important.
does.
That's it.
And in Christian terminology, they call it the peace that passes all understanding. I
Yes.
don't have to argue. I don't have to be right. But see, the ego wants to be right.
Yeah,
Yep.
you go. Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to make sense to you. Why should it make? That's not your life.
Exactly.
So
And that's
Yeah.
that
and what
actually,
yeah. So you got to give up being right. You just say, okay, mom,
It's
okay,
very important. That's
yeah,
it.
and that's what I've been learning how to do over the
yeah,
last
just give up.
couple
You have to be
years.
right.
At
Yep.
some point, you
Even
just got to be
me.
like, okay, and
Yeah.
just
Even
walk.
me. Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't
Right.
think
Right.
every religion is. I don't think there's a single religion out there that has it 100%. I don't think
No.
any of
Agreed.
them.
No. I
Agreed.
mean, I mean, look at Rome. They believed in 5 different gods. Remember,
Yep.
they had their own beliefs. They believed that Neptune controlled water. So there you
Well, I
go.
mean, and Neptune probably did if Neptune was more of an extraterrestrial god. But the point is this.
Mm-hmm.
The point is this. I don't know if you ever heard of Howard Thurman. He was a mystic. He was Martin Luther King's mentor. And people got upset with him because after Martin died, they thought he was kind of like to take over. But he was a mystic. He liked to sit in the woods. He was an academic. He said this,
Mm-hmm.
that the truth in religion is any truth found in religion is in the religion because it's true. It's not true just because it's found in the religion.
Yes.
And if you can hold on to that, because the basics of all religions, because religio, comes from religio meaning to yoke, to join together. If you can just say, because we know what the differences are. Look, I'm on this radio broadcast. There's Brother Rose, who's a Christian. We have another brother who's an atheist. We have a pagan and we have our brother here who's Catholic. That's diversity. Diversity is
Mhm.
not just the skin color; it's plurality of thought.
And we
We
still
have
all
to be
consider each other
able.
family.
Part of diversity is
There you
being
go.
able to have different ideas in the marketplace.
Well, from our
Okay,
good brother Jeff here, he says the Bible, particularly the New Testament, was written by a bunch of guys who never met Jesus and has been filtered down to 4 gospels out of 400 that were not just rejected but destroyed.
and I would say, brother Jeff, on one level, you're right.
Mhm.
But for those people who live and try to follow those teachings, whether we agree with them or not, or we can get lost in the forest for the trees, it's much more than that.
Mhm.
Mm.
So, and there's another thing. You can have two rights. You can both be right. On one level, Jeff is right, but that doesn't mean it's not that doesn't mean it's worthless. And that's not what he said. But I'm
Right.
just saying there are eternal truths in those books.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I know people who threw out the baby with the bathwater. That's okay. But I'm just saying, you don't want to denigrate it. The Dalai Lama said something very interesting. He said he would rather people in the West didn't leave their religion of origin to go to Buddhism.
Hmm.
He said, but if you did, he said you should try to understand your own traditions deeper, more in a better way.
Oh yeah.
He says, but if you do, never speak bad about the religion you left
Nope.
because it
No,
still
no, no,
works
no.
for other people.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
and so I don't bash Christianity um, because it still works, and part of it still works for me. I just don't get into the dogma of it, or any of them for that matter. But Jeff is right on one level because it's different levels. It was written by some people who they had a different agenda. They all saw
Mm-hmm.
Jesus in a different way. Remember, Paul's always arguing with Peter and
Mhm.
John because they're saying, look, Paul, you say you met him on Damascus. We knew him. So there's all those things because being a human being is messy. But there are truths in the First and Second Testament, the Old and New Testament, that will be true. They were true 2,500 years ago, and they'll be true 2,500 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I hate to bring this one up, but I can't help it. What do you think causes people to become these flat Earth types? Like, I mean,
Oh,
That's
Jack.
real,
seriously,
Jack.
we've got.
That's
Gosh darn
real,
it,
man.
Jack.
I mean, come
I
on.
I can't. I have to pass that
Jack.
question on. I have no
I
idea.
have no idea.
He
Oh,
has no
Jack.
clue.
I have no idea.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I have no idea.
My search for answers continues.
Okay, well, to get us back on track.
You can blow the whistle, Jack.
Yeah, blow the
Yeah,
whistle on
right.
yourself.
I've already got
Yes.
a
Huh?
Facebook user.
Yeah.
Step away from the flat Earth,
Yeah,
Jack.
I'm talking.
Probably Lee.
Step away from the flat Earth, Jack. Yeah, I agree.
Just don't step too far; you'll fall off the edge.
There
Yeah,
you
exactly.
go.
Here we go. I had a question and now it just went foop over the edge.
Well, I got a question. I got a
Go
question
ahead.
for you, Michael.
Yes.
When did you first? When was your first moment with the extraterrestrial? Can you describe that moment?
Yeah.
That's one of my 1,000 questions. So go ahead.
Yeah. I want to
Mhm.
preface it with this. Life is lived, who was it? Wonderful Christian Danish philosopher, Soren
Mhm.
Kierkegaard. He said, life is lived forward, but it's only understood backwards. So, and I want to preface it. Looking
Okay.
back, I realized I was visited when I was very, very young.
Oh,
But I didn't have the
the
nomenclature.
knowledge.
But
Okay.
to answer your question, so
Okay.
that was going backwards, now going forward. December 28th, 1989, I came back from seeing the pyramids in Chichen Itza and Tulum on the Yucatan Peninsula. I went with my girlfriend at the time,
Ah,
and
Mesoamerica. Nice.
it was wonderful. And
Nice.
I mean, what could I say? I mean, the architecture. How did they build it? Who knew? And so
Mhm.
I got back home. We used to always come back before New Year's.
Mhm.
So I went to a gathering that night in Hell's Kitchen, and I lived on the Upper West
Mhm.
Side then.
Oh,
My
cool.
my girlfriend at the time didn't want to go. It was cold. We just got back, it was 85 degree, And so she said, when we got back at JFK, she said, I'm going to stay in. I said, well, I'm going out. I wanted to show off. I got real golden. My hair was, yeah, Jeff, love some Kierkegaard, brother. And so I just wanted to show off, to be honest. And they were freezing their butts off. And I had just come back from being on the beach in Cancun. So I got there and we were there, no beverages because my friend didn't drink. And so there was no beer or alcohol. It was tons of deviled eggs, which I love.
Oh, I love
And so
deviled
I went
eggs.
home. Oh, God forgive me. I love them so much. Anyway, I went home. I went home and I went to bed. And I don't know to this day whether I just felt a presence in the room or whether I don't know, I had to go to the bathroom. But when I turned around, because I sleep on my stomach, there was a being on the edge of my bed. Hold on, I'll bring you a picture.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Here we go. We're gonna get some art.
Oh, you got my attention.
Yeah,
For real.
that picked my attention too. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I
Here he
can't,
comes.
I can't bring all of them, but
Okay.
I have an artist friend of mine in Las Vegas, in Nevada, and she makes all
Oh,
the
cool.
beings that I
That's
see.
where
So
Jeff's at.
anyway,
He's in Nevada.
this
Nice.
brother. Now he didn't have a robe on. I just had her put a Buddhist robe on him so he meditates. But he looked like this. He had on a jumpsuit that looked like it was a Reynolds wrap. It was real tight. It was like Lost in Space. If I'm dating myself, but the way they wore those, and so it looked like aluminum foil. And he was at the foot of my bed. He could not have been. He wasn't going to play in the NBA. Let's put it like that. He may have been 3 feet, 4 feet tall and it scared the you know what out of me. And my girlfriend couldn't wake up. Or either didn't. And
Oh.
so I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And the being had a blue light. It was a blue light around him, like this deep blue.
Oh.
It was a pretty blue color. And then behind him was this white danger will.
Jeffy.
Anyway, I just can't tell you. I've never been this frightened as I was, and so I got in a fetal position and I pulled the covers up over my head, and I heard this whoosh, whoosh, like I was outside. This was in the Excelsior Hotel, Angelus, 45 West 81st Street between Columbus and the Park. It's still there, right across the street from the
Oh,
planetarium. It wasn't like Benny and Barney Hill out in the boondocks somewhere. This was in Manhattan.
wow.
And
Middle of the city.
I pulled the
Yeah.
covers. When I pulled the covers down, because it felt like I was outside.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally got the cojones to pull the covers down, and no one was there. My girlfriend woke up, and she's a deeply spiritual woman, so she didn't say, "What are you, some kind of nut?" And so we were talking about it, and they came every full and new moon for about 8 months. The gray, they were whitish gray. They weren't like gray. The gray people, and they would paralyze me. Sometimes they would show me pictures in my head.
Like
And so
what? What kind of images were they having
they
you
showed
see?
me they showed me a picture of an event that happened in my life later on.
Hmm.
Which
Wow.
was freaky because it did happen, and they showed me an event. They showed me a past life that
Wow.
I was a Catholic monk, a high
Oh,
right,
no doubt.
a high
Wow.
Like
right.
Yeah. That
what
makes
era?
sense, actually.
Well, it does
Yeah.
because I was always into the church. I always loved
That
the
makes
church.
sense. Right.
So anyway,
Mhm.
that was number one, and then they started coming twice a month, every full and new moon, and they would paralyze me. Sometimes I would feel electricity going through my body, which was probably the energy. And then as time went on, like I saw a reptilian brother, I got an Arcturian right here who came to visit me, a blue
Oh,
person.
wow.
Oh.
Um, and
Mm.
and back in 2019, I saw a praying mantis person,
Hmm.
and
Wow.
I had a blood clot, but he's over here. I'll get you. I had a blood clot healed by a blonde brother. I mean, you could probably get on the elevator and not even know. I mean, his energy. Hold on, I'll get him. I,
Okay.
I put him over here where I meditate.
Yeah, I
No
think the
problem.
blonde ones are what they call Nordics.
Yeah, that's what I
Yes.
was.
Nordics, uh-huh.
Yeah, because they're like they look like
Yeah.
regular people. They're
And
blonde
Right.
haired, blue eyed. Yeah,
The
is
reptilian
that
Oh,
I
the
have,
oh,
Nordic?
okay.
the
The
reptilian
Nordic
I
type?
have upstairs. But these people healed a blood clot on July 4th, 2013 at 9:50. He came
Wow.
in my room.
That
Yeah. So
down to
I've
the
had these
time.
experiences. And
Wow.
and it just changed my concepts of God, of the Bible, of everything. But it made me go even deeper. I wouldn't. The only thing, it's the most important thing that's happened in my life, except for the birth of my child, our child, and some marriages. Right, most important thing. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But it did do. I was in therapy, man. I couldn't sleep. It took me 20 years. I still don't do it, but I do it. To turn the lights out when I go to bed. Um, my skin and nails grew very fast. I get by on less sleep. They got me into healing. They wanted me to do Reiki. They got me into that. And psychic
Mhm.
phenomenon. I got that from them. I mean, I was going that way, but they kind of said, "Go faster."
Pushed you? Yeah, I love
Um,
Reiki.
and so that is what happened. And I never. I will say this to y'all. I never ever tried to get famous from this. One day,
Mhm.
um, somebody asked, who was it? So it was for a podcast. It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, it had to be because that's when I started really getting into it. And they asked me for a bio. And when I wrote the bio and I read it to myself, I was like, "Oh my God!" Even I was a little impressed.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
And yeah,
Yeah.
because I did the Spielberg stuff, and I
Yeah.
did Aliens, and I just said okay, because one of the reasons I wrote the other two books that are not UFO related is because I didn't want to be known as the UFO minister because I have other interests. I like to swim. I write. You know, I love beer. Uh, I just have other
Mhm.
interests in my life. I love to swim.
You didn't want it to identify you.
Right, but
Mm.
but but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
this is what I'm known for. But now I realize it's part of the plan because, as far as I know, there are no other ordained clergy. I mean, seminary trained. I'm not saying some that's talking about this, except for my friend Dr. Barry Downing, but he's kind of retired, and he's like he gave me the courage to do what I'm doing, and I'm an experiencer. And I say that to brag. I know why, because if you do come out and talk about this, not unless you're retired and you just don't care, you risk. But this is the time because now the government's talking
Yeah,
about it.
I
So
will
Yeah.
say you're the first one that I've ever heard of.
it's not a lot
So
of ministers talking about it, but there
nope.
Mm-mm.
will be.
Mhm.
There will be. There will
At
be.
some point, there should
Eventually.
be.
I've got a question on that. You,
Yes,
you mentioned about the government. Okay, first of all, let me just throw this out here. A lot of people know I'm active Air Force.
sure.
Mhm.
I have a security clearance, and I'm just going to say this up front. I have absolutely no knowledge of government involvement in aliens whatsoever. I just have a secret clearance. I have no knowledge in that whatsoever. So anything I say right here has nothing to do with anything I know from being on the inside.
Yeah,
He's
no,
he
understood. And that's how you keep secrets. You keep it compartmentalized. That the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing, and that's okay. I'm not. Listen, I'm not knocking the government in that aspect. I do think that now, there are things to answer for. Some people have lost. Yes, I am familiar with your Rancher book. Yes, um, I just think that now is the time that people are ready for this, and I think the government realizes that now. That's why we just had Senate hearings this summer, and I also think they want to get ahead of it, is because one day somebody's going to have their phone on them, and they're going to take a picture of something that cannot be explained away,
Yeah.
and then it's going to be embarrassing. And our government is other governments are kind of ahead of the curve. A lot of them don't have the secrecy we have. And you have to ask yourself, why do you have secret files on something that you say doesn't exist? I mean, you don't have to go to West Point or Yale School. If it doesn't exist, why do you have secret files on it? So I think that as was it Goethe who said, "No lie lives forever." And so things are going to unravel. But if you want to be ahead of it, then you got to do things to kind of plug the holes. But they've been knowing about this stuff for at least 70 years and beyond. I mean, when you do the research, these beings, maybe not the same ones, but they've been coming here since
for a long
since the
time.
beginning of time,
Well,
before
Yeah,
as we know it.
The question, what I was going to get, what I was getting into as far as like government disclosure on it. I mean, do I think the government knows way more than they're letting on? Yes, absolutely. Do I know that for a fact? No, I do not. Okay, but I think I'm sorry, my dog is wanting to be petted.
All
But
right.
yeah, so part of me wonders if one of the main reasons why the government just hasn't come out and spilled everything that they know about. I mean, they had that big disclosure like, oh yeah, well, yeah, there's some things up there that we don't know. We don't know where they're coming from, and we're pretty much acknowledging existence, but we don't know if they're aliens or not. Okay, so uh, which I think is just another smoke screen. Okay, fine, you pretty much told us what we already knew, but before, I think one of the things that's holding our government and other governments back from just full disclosure is the impact that it'll have on religion throughout the entire world. I mean,
See, I've
it
always
is a
thought that
big
myself.
moneymaker.
I've always
Yeah,
thought
that's
that
true.
myself, that if all of a sudden you introduce that, yeah, there's other life out there besides us, suddenly everybody that's got a Bible or a Quran or anything else is going, well, it's not mentioned in here anywhere.
Yeah, it's going to
So,
start a flame war.
mhm.
I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
it's more than just a financial thing. I mean, it is.
you listen.
People get
Yeah,
murdered every day over religion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
sadly so. Sadly so. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think you're onto something. Listen, that I think people are ready for it now. You're always going to be. But see, when you say that, though, not just you, Brother Rose, what we're saying is we're admitting that religion is used to control.
Hmm.
That's what you're saying. And
Yeah.
so,
I don't disagree with that. Yeah.
no, that's
No,
what you're
me
saying.
neither.
That's
I
what I'm
don't.
asking. But my point is this: if we go back to if this, we don't know if this really happened, but it's a lot of there's a smoking gun. If we go back to the Greada Treaty or the Grenada Treaty that Eisenhower was supposedly signed with this group of Greys, not all Greys, but a group of Greys. And as the story goes, I've been researching it a little more lately. There's a wonderful movie called The 11th Green on Amazon Prime, but that explores it. But and Michael Sala's written some books about JFK and Eisenhower and the assassination and the UFO connection with Marilyn Monroe and all that. The point I'm trying to make is this: when when these Nordics came to Eisenhower and they said, you got our attention, you just split the atom twice over here, you don't know what you're really doing, and we would ask you to dial it back with the nuclear stuff, and we would show you how to advance your spiritual growth. Eisenhower said no. He said that he said that we live in a very dangerous world and we're not ready for that. So the Nordics say to Ike, okay, but there's another group of folks you need to be leery of. So Ike signs the treaty with the Greys, this group of Greys, I'm not whitewashing a whole um, a species, and he says to them, they say, well, this is what we like, and he says, we can't control it. You can do what you want. We can't do anything, and so, but he wanted the technology. So we have technology, and they said, okay, all we want is a list of names of the people you abduct, And so we know what's going on. We don't want him harmed. And of course, he realized that he got okey doked, and the Greys had just gone way over what the treaty is signed. When Eisenhower, and then he makes the speech, I think in 61, where he says, beware the military industrial complex, because there was a rogue part of the government that didn't answer to the president or anybody else since Truman, because Truman knew about it. And that was his warning. The reason is because Eisenhower knew that Allen Dulles and the CIA and Lockheed Martin, well, there was no Lockheed Martin back then, all the technology was now in the hands of a group of rogue people in the government. Now we call them deep state. And
Mm-hmm.
Lockheed Martin, General Electric, all that. So here's the crux of the matter. It's not just religion that we can use to control, but if these people can get here with a ship and walk through walls and do all these kinds of things, that means we don't need coal. Okay?
Mm.
There's a lot of money made on coal. So
Right.
keep this stuff secret. If you can get here and walk through my wall and get here through light years and however you get here, that means you probably could cure a lot of the diseases that we have here. But there's a lot of money being spent and made on cancer research. And so what I'm trying to say is it would turn our world upside down, which I would be ready for, because we need, and this technology could be used for good, but yet it's in the hands of the few. Kennedy, what was told about this stuff from Eisenhower, and there's a lot of evidence that Kennedy was going to go public. He wanted to work with the Soviet Union to do joint space expeditions. He probably learned of this stuff from Eisenhower. He probably saw some of these bodies as Eisenhower did, and he threatened to go public. He and Bobby are screwing Marilyn to death. She's saying, look, he's a security risk because they're both telling her these secrets. When she finds out that she's just being used for booty calls, she decides that she's going to spill the beans, and she winds up dead. These people are playing hardball. But the whole thing is that who gets to decide what who gets to decide what this technology does, the hands of the few. And it's a very dangerous game. And people have lost their lives. Look at James Forrestal. James Forrestal, allegedly, he jumped out of a window. He was the first secretary, it's either Secretary of State, but he was one of the people, friends with who? Friends with Kennedy, friends with Ike. All of a sudden, he jumps out of a window, but
Mm.
he wanted to go public with what happened at Roswell and before. So these people play hardball. It is about religion, but it's about economics and who controls the narrative. And this is what's going on today. I never thought I'd even be talking like this and stuff, but I did my own research because I just don't believe what people are saying, just because they said it. I mean, some
Right.
stuff to me is obvious, the economic piece. I mean, we won't need coal. Man, we won't need coal. You can use 0 point energy. I mean, look what happened to Tesla. I mean,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
so there's a faction of our government. It's a government within the government
Mm.
who is getting rich over this. I'm not just talking about whether you're a Trumpster or whether you're. I'm not talking. This is bigger than that.
Oh
It
yeah.
goes way beyond
Well,
that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
they're all in color. They're
Partisan.
all in
Yeah, yeah.
cahoots at
It's
the end
it's
of the
about
day.
Yeah.
it's about who is going. Look what's happening with Putin. Now, Putin is not to be played with. But remember,
Right.
Reagan talked about it, and I think even Brezhnev, when James Baker was Secretary of State, NATO promised Putin we would never put troops on your western border. We promised him that. Now, it was oral. So an oral contract is not worth the paper it's written on, but these are paranoid people. You see what happened when Hitler betrayed him. So he's got China on one flank and he's got NATO on the other. Okay, now, I'm not making excuses, but I'm just saying there's always three sides to every story. There's yours, mine, and the truth. But we don't.
Yeah.
We provoked him, and he said, "If you keep messing with me," he said it more eloquently than I did. For over the years, and now here we are. Here we are. And so, but in order for power, you can't let your people know. No one talks about this. We know more about the Dallas Cowboys than we know about our foreign policy, and it's designed that way to keep you entertained. You know more about LeBron James than you do about what's going on in Sri Lanka now. And so, and if you talk like this, well, you're not a patriot or no, this is just, this is how we got here.
Well,
This
man,
is how we got here.
Yeah.
You're
there's
so
always
amazing,
people.
Michael.
Yeah, man.
I just
I
love
mean,
everything that you're talking about here, and you're
but
hitting
it's
hitting the
true.
nail right on the head.
Yeah,
It's so true. I know a little bit about Sri Lanka, what's going on with the economic fallout out there. I know a
Yeah,
little
I'm
bit
just
out there.
throwing stuff out. Yeah, no, brother
Right.
Angela. I mean, it could be Sri Lanka, it could be Vietnam, it
Hmm.
could be whatever it is. But
But yeah, you make the point. That's the point.
we're
Yeah.
entertained. Keep us
Hmm.
entertained.
Right.
Keep us, keep us drinking.
Keep us
Keep us worried
distracted.
about sex.
Yeah.
Keep us
There you
distracted.
go, Jack. There you
Yeah,
go. Hmm.
because I know
Hmm.
people who say United States is the greatest country in the world, and they never even been outside the country. They
Right.
never been. They don't know.
Yeah. You know.
People go to Europe. Americans go to Europe, and if they fall down and they break their leg, they love it that they don't get charged for health care.
Hmm.
Because right? But if we say let's do it here, we say it's socialism.
I have a
Socialism.
question.
But when I go to Europe and I sprain my leg and I gotta go, and they say no, it's free.
Hmm.
Oh, I love it. They clap like seals. You said, well, why
Like,
don't we do that
oh,
here?
oh, oh.
Oh no. That's Michael. You're a socialist. That's communism.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Universal
It's
health
ignorant.
care
I
is
don't
not
want to get into politics,
necessarily
but it's a lot more
socialism.
expensive to live in Europe too.
It's
It
ignorant.
is.
It
My
is. It
question.
is. But so what? You pay higher taxes. Why can't you get free college? I know why
My,
you can't, but why can't you get that? That's the dignity of a human being. Look, $20,000 he's going to knock off for a college, but when you need a bomb, nobody says where's that money coming from.
No.
We just print it off. We just print it off. We 3 trillion. Here, let me write you that. Boom. What about investing in your own people?
Oh, yeah.
But when you want to control people, you don't want an educated populace.
no,
This
you
is
do not.
why
Yeah, but
Absolutely
Stalin,
not.
when you get rid of your
That's a good
intellectual,
point.
or you
because
control the education system.
you don't want people thinking. You don't want them thinking. You want them to follow the program.
Follow the leader. My question is when they released in, I think it was April of 2020 or 2021, when they saw that cylinder in the sky,
Mhm.
what do you think their point is with releasing that information and when they did?
All I can say, my good sister Amato, is that when you want you kind of release stuff in drips and drabs. I'm
And it's
telling you,
very trickled.
they want you, disinformation. I give you a little truth and I wrap it up in some untruths or what have you,
Hmm.
but just to get you thinking, because
Hmm.
one day there's going to be something that they cannot explain away. One day somebody's going to take a picture of one of these brothers and sisters coming out of here,
I'm
or,
thinking
or
it's
you know,
it's
and you're
way
not going to be
already.
able to say it's a weather balloon or whatever. And
Hmm.
so we need to get out in front of that because they're doing the narrative now.
They've
They're
been
doing, they're
saying
doing
it
the
for
narrative now.
years.
They're saying now they're saying, okay, they're out there, but watch out, they're enemies because
I
we got to
wonder.
have an enemy.
Well,
You've got to
yeah,
have an enemy.
we
And
need
so
we need our big bad government to protect
you
us.
got to have the defense. When the Defense Department asks for several $1 trillion each year, Congress says, "Well, you need it for." So you got
Space
to have
Force.
an enemy. First it was Iran, then it was China, then it was. But you got to have an enemy when you're a fear-based society. And
Yes.
so now, whether it's Hector Elizondo who talks out of both sides of his mouth, or these talking heads that come on, you can tell what they're saying because it's okay. Oh yeah, they're here. But you know what? Watch them. They're a threat. They shut down our missile silos. I'd shut them down too because we
Yeah.
Hmm.
don't know what to do with them.
Well, I
Okay,
mean,
but they have not
obviously.
attacked us. But so now you can hear the rhetoric. Now in the next 3, 4, 5 years, they're going to be the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is maybe this is too simple.
They're still controlling them.
With that being said, can I please stop here?
Poor Richard.
You think the government may be kind of incrementally feeding us more and more of the actual truth just to prepare us for for full disclosure at some point, because they're getting to the point where we can't hide this lie much longer.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just saying. They give you disinformation. They'll give you a little bit, and they'll wrap it up in other things. So that's exactly what I'm saying. But it's not about how much they give you. It's that who controls the narrative.
Well,
Well,
it
now-
was also sent out
and
when
they're going to control
COVID
the
was a
narrative.
big deal. So they put it out there when COVID was a huge deal. So it was covered in COVID information. You had to dig for it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, now piggybacking off what Richard was saying there, why don't the aliens just go, "Hello," and just appear, just start walking around us in regular society?
Yeah. What's the mystery?
Would you do that here?
Well, you
Would
act
you
like
do
he's
that
got
here
a
when people-
walkie-talkie straight to the grays.
Well, now
Would you do that
going
with a warlike society?
We don't
Well,
even
now-
like we don't even like each other half the
Yeah,
well,
time.
that's the thing,
Yeah.
though.
Good point.
With the technology that they obviously would have to possess to be able to come here in the first place, I don't think they should have any reason to be afraid of us. They could just take us out at any time if they would want to. So,
Well, right, but suppose there's such thing as a prime directive. Suppose there's such a thing that you don't interfere with certain civilizations. You have to let them find their way. I
the
mean, I
Star
don't
Trek
know.
model.
Well, that may be true, but I mean, when you say why don't they, which day are you talking about? There's so many different species.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I just throw they out in general because it would only take one of them.
But what we do know is they're not hurting us.
Well, no.
And so that's
No.
the thing. That's most important.
Okay. Somebody had texted me earlier about this, and I'm just going to throw it out there. One of the things, usually it's some crazy redneck outside of a trailer, talking about like the anal probing. Do you think that's a thing?
Well, there were people who were talking about that. That this group of Greys, it was mostly all the Greys, group of Greys who were doing that. Women were having ovum taking, men were having sperm taken. Some people were pregnant, and then they said, "Well, I haven't had sex. How can I be pregnant?" And then they come back and find out that the baby was gone. Yeah, I believe that happened, but it doesn't happen to everybody, which is why I wrote my books, because I wanted people to say, "Hey, there's some people who've had these traumatic." Life-altering things happen, but there are also people like me and other people who maybe have had some trauma, but we've come on the other side and we say this is a positive thing.
That's why I was going to ask you why your experiences seem to be more positive than anything, but there's other people that have had the same experiences with same species that you've run into that was just horrifying and painful and just nothing positive.
Right. Well, it's like with people. You can run into some black folks that may rob you and beat you up, and you may run into some black folks who don't. I mean, we got to start thinking more sophisticated instead of just saying all of them. But we do that with each other. And we do that with stereotypes with each other. There are some Greys. There are some Greys who performed anal probes and did some things to people. That doesn't mean all Greys do. There's some reptilians who have done things to people. The reptilians I met did not harm me. Okay, so we got to start thinking a little deeper and stop just saying, what do they want? Well, who's they? I just showed you 5 species right here. So how do you know? It's like saying, what do all Jewish people want? Which Jews are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right.
That's very different, because I had heard, and I'm talking about the reptilians, because I have always only ever heard reptilians are nasty.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, and obviously that.
And I've heard all rednecks hate black people. So.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Point proven.
There's look,
That's
and
not
there's
true.
There's 2 of them right here.
2 rednecks right here.
Reptilians,
Point proven.
You see,
Yeah, but that's the point.
100%, Rev. 100%.
Now, Michael, I got a question for you, my friend. I mean, you know the pyramids in Egypt, right? You know, it took an hour of work to build. Now, do you actually believe that actual people built the pyramids, or did they have some assistance from, the aliens? What do you
Good
I think
question.
believe?
I think they've had assistance. It's just that it would be difficult for us with the technology that we have today to recreate
Right.
what was done
Right.
back some time.
Yeah, and not to mention the records in ancient Egypt weren't well necessarily well kept when the pyramids were built.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I just say they had help. I just read an article the other day, and it's
Hmm.
a perspective, and people have their right. This guy was saying he was Egyptian. He said that it was racist because basically what you're saying is whether it was the Mayan or whether it was Egyptians,
Right.
that you're saying that people of color don't have agency, and I didn't see it that way, but it was a
Yeah. Well,
perspective. But I mean, if you got help, you got help. It doesn't,
yeah, I
but
That's
mean,
a perspective I've
because
never heard before.
the thing about it, Michael, I'm a historian nut. I mean, I'm Jack knows, everybody knows I'm a
Mhm.
historian nut. So, but I
Yeah.
just found it really interesting that to build such a big monument with a perfect pyramid, no mistakes, no blemishes, no nothing. I just found it a little hard to believe that it was actually done with pure human hands. That's just
yeah,
the way I
yeah.
see it.
No, I do too. But remember what we said at the
Hmm.
beginning of the broadcast. We could always
Hmm.
be wrong.
We could
Yeah,
always be wrong.
you could.
Yep.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
Very true.
yeah,
as long as you hold that, you won't have
right.
to argue. You won't have to prove. You won't have to take
Yeah,
accountants. You just say,
right.
okay, you think humans did it? Okay, got it.
All
I
right.
Got it.
Well,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
right.
Jeff's got a good comment here, which I have a good response for. Says, I will happily extend an open invitation to any alien who would like to appear on the Padded Room, which is another show that me and Jennifer do with Jeff. And
Hey, why
Jeff
not?
just it apparently Jeff didn't get the memo. Ricky Fleet is a alien, just so he knows. He's another
And
member of
then
our crew.
Dungeon Dan said there is an alien. His name is Jason.
That
His
would be
name is
another one.
Other
Jason.
co-hosts on
I
our
knew
show,
it. I
on
knew
our
it.
other show.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? He may be talking to an
we
alien right here. Nah, I'm just
we
saying.
have fun.
Yeah,
We
they
Well,
just
do.
have fun with it.
No,
I'm
it's
I'm
interesting.
still
It's interesting. I was just reading. I read the sports section, and there's this new guy. He's 7'5",
Mm.
and he may come to the NBA.
Uh
And
huh.
two people said that this guy is an alien. Okay, I mean, I'm just
Mm.
throwing that out there. The terminology is like this guy is an alien. Yes,
yep.
Socrates is right, and
That
that's why he
wisdom
was wise.
is knowing you
Socrates,
don't know anything. Yep.
that's right.
Hmm. That's a
I
good.
don't
That's
know it all. Yep.
perfect.
Yeah.
Now, Michael, another question: Are you big into philosophy, into studying the philosophers like Socrates and Plato and all that?
Yeah. Yes. I have
Awesome,
respect for them. Yes.
awesome. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
My
Awesome.
favorite philosopher is William James because
Uh huh.
uh, he's a pragmatist, and I am
Hmm.
too for the most part. I like him, but yeah,
Hmm.
Cornel West, the ancient Greece, uh,
Yep.
Greek philosophers, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of talented philosophers in our time as well. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think philosophy. Well, philosophy means what? Lover of wisdom.
Right.
And
Correct.
so I love wisdom. Um, I love learning, but I realize unless I live it, it's not really. It's just knowledge. Till you live it,
Right.
I think we live in a society that confuses information for wisdom, but
Hmm.
information is not wisdom.
I think they
No.
Information
confused.
can become knowledge, and knowledge applied can
Yeah.
be wisdom, but it's not.
Hmm.
There's a difference.
I think
Yeah.
they
Because
apply
yeah.
opinion. They believe opinion is wisdom, and
There
that
you
is
go.
definitely not true.
Because not every opinion is true.
That's true, and I just think you just have to be able to live it. Like, if I have a belief and I
Uh-huh.
live it and it's not working for me, then I need
Mm-hmm.
to be able to change that belief.
Uh-huh.
You know, and Dalai Lama talked about that. He said, if I suddenly found out that they discovered everything about Buddhism was not true, he said I would have to reassess my thinking. But there's so many people who they have to be right that it doesn't matter what you present to them. There's a cognitive dissonance that I have to be right and I'm going to hold on to what I believe. And
Mm-hmm.
you just have to throw your hands up and say, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, and I know Richard's got a list over there, so
Go ahead, Rich.
You're up, big boy.
Okay, so with all these, species, you already touched on it. It's like, some people have had bad experiences because they may have just, had the unfortunate experience of getting in with the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
Um, so, question is, in your opinion, are they a threat, or I mean, not collectively, but are there,
like
pockets
pockets,
of
maybe.
these species out here that are a threat to us?
I can say to you, Richard, it's a great question. I don't perceive a threat. Okay. The people who came to me, outside of just the mere shock that they kept coming and I was losing sleep. But when I thought about it, I had to say to myself, have these people ever hurt you? They hurt me once. And when I asked them not to, they stopped. And I think it was by an accident. Um, I don't see the threat. I do not. Now I don't believe that all of them are our brothers and sisters and want to be kumbaya. Some people are just observing. Some people, I don't believe that with people, but I can only go from my experience. But I live on a planet where when people choose fear, we live in fear all the time.
Mhm.
And so when you live in fear all the time, anything's a threat. People who love are a threat. This is
Mm-hmm.
why King and Joan of Arc and Buddha, well, Gandhi, and they were killed because I don't understand it and it is fearful to me. Too much love is fearful. I'm afraid of that. I can't trust that. And so all I can say is from my own personal experiences, I don't see a threat. But that's different from saying there is no threat. And all I can tell you is that if they wanted to take over,
Yeah.
they can shut down our missile silos. They've shown us that. But
Mhm.
that Ray Charles can see that's not, it's a threat if you want to use them. But even Stevie Wonder can see, I'm trying to show you, man, you just dropped two bombs over civilians. Don't get me started with that. Not even military targets.
Mhm.
Yeah. We got, well, it's short in the war. These were civilians. We call that terrorism today.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
No
so,
kidding.
so, so my point being is that, if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yep.
If that's the only tool you have, everything was like a nail.
Well,
And
that's
people are paid, to think like that.
I
You
might
know,
write that down. That's going to be in my next book. I'm going to steal that if you don't mind.
oh, please, I probably stole it from
I was
somebody.
just going to talk.
All
Um,
I
right.
think we all have.
yeah,
right.
man. Yeah,
All right.
I don't see the threat. I'm not saying there isn't, but I'm like, you're innocent till proven guilty. But if
Mm-hmm.
I see
True.
everything as a threat, then I'm going, and remember, we talked about quantum physics. What I see, what I project, I create. So if I believe you're a threat, I'm going to create a
A threat.
situation to prove my point.
All right. Well, back to back comments here, real quick. Jeff Thompson first says people will defend their ignorance with tooth and nail,
And guns.
which is true, and guns. And then, of course, Dungeon Dan follows up with, "Not all people, Jeff. I embrace it." I love those two guys. I swear I do. They are out of
Yes.
their minds. Out of
Yeah.
their minds. And they're
Yeah.
probably
I
aliens as well. In fact, I'm starting to, as we've had this conversation going, I'm starting to wonder if I'm the only non-alien around, or maybe
Probably
I'm the
not.
only, or maybe I'm
Well,
the only alien. Ooh.
That's right.
and you
All right,
just forgot.
all right,
That's
Richard, back to the
exactly right.
list, man, because you seem to be on it today.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, this is great. I'm just having a ball here. Can we do this for another 2 hours today?
Who knows?
But
I gotta eat.
in, in regards to golly, you talk about they open your eyes to a whole different I guess philosophy for a better way of describing it on your thoughts on spiritualism and everything. What are their beliefs? I mean, like for example, when we die, where do we go? Do we go anywhere? What happens to us?
Well, usually they, from my experience, from my readings and things where I think they pushed me towards, energy cannot be created or destroyed. Einstein tells us. So your body dies, but you live on. Most of the literature talks about them embracing reincarnation. number one. The most of the Nordic literature that I've read, or people who've had contact with them, they do not believe in a God like we do. They think it's ignorant. They believe in a source, call it what you will. It's not anthropomorphic, that we are part of it. That's where we go back to. It's more like an energy and intelligence, but it doesn't have a torso and arms and legs and all that. And that's what happened with me once I started having these experiences. And also, even before, my God became less personal. There's no man, woman up in the sky, like Santa Claus, punishing me or what have you. I punish myself, if you will, by by breaking the laws of the universe. That because there's karma, so no one's punishing me. It's the consequences of my actions. So it's a more sophisticated, if you will, and I'm using that word. It's a more mature take on how the universe works. That it's like if I went to the ocean and I had a cup of water, I had a cup and I put ocean water in the cup and went back to my room, wouldn't it be kind of silly for the ocean to say, for the ocean water to say, I'm not part of the ocean just because I'm in this cup? But that's what we do. Just because I'm in this body, I'm separated. And part of that is teachings from the church and whatever, where we place a lot of emphasis on the body. We're going to the gym and I got to get that 6-pack stomach and I got to be ripped. And, if we put more energy on our spiritual exercises, we probably, um, we probably would be, it'd probably be a little better place. But they realize that this will go and come. And but this is not who we really are.
Okay, now this is probably just because I'm country fried, so it's going a little bit over my head. But Jeff says the Tao, which
The
can be
Tao
spoken of, the Tao that can be spoken of,
is
is
not the
not
Tao.
the
Yes,
Tao. Yeah.
yes, and he's right. I mean, any God, the finite can never comprehend the infinite, especially in these bodies. So any God, if you have you ever noticed that everybody's God usually believes the same thing they believe, hates the same people they hate. You know what I mean? We created God in our image. We create our gods. The Tao is a formless energy that can't be described. When you look at some Native American theology, when you look at the Lakota, who
Mm-hmm.
gave Custer a fit that fateful day in June,
Say more than a fit.
they call the Great Spirit Wonka Tonkin, the Great Mystery. See, they know how to live with mystery. They realize they don't have to have all the answers. In the West, we have to dissect and we have to have the answers in order. I'll give you metaphysically, well, I'll put it like this. Old Newtonian physics, the old science says, if you show me, I'll believe. The new physics, quantum physics, and the 60th century physics that these star people are doing, they say, no, no, no. Believe, and I'll show you. Two very different ways of looking at life.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the party of the first pack there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
following up, Jeff comes in. The moment you start talking about something infinite with something finite like language, we're
Yeah.
no longer talking about it because we no longer have the right frame of reference.
Yes. It's a very Buddhist, it's a very Eastern philosophy. And so with us, you have to be right, and God knows. And I got God on my speed dial. See, and if I call
I
her,
don't know what to say or do anymore.
if I call her, then she'll know. And so we don't live with mystery. We have to know the answers, and you can't know everything, and you don't have to. We can barely work with the knowledge that we have now. It reminds me of Jesus is saying to Nicodemus. He said, if I talk to you of earthly things and you do not understand, how will you understand when I speak to you of heavenly things?
You know,
Interesting.
That's heavy.
Yeah,
Yep.
we talk about shows like you've been on, like Ancient Aliens. I mean, I'm a big fan of the show. I mean,
Love that
every
show.
show I've watched just has so much compelling stuff to throw out there. that really it's kind of hard to question whether or not we've been visited by aliens, not since Roswell, but from way,
Mhm.
way,
Yeah,
in history. There are references in the Bible
of
that
course.
to alien encounters. I was doing a little research. I was reading stuff in Ezekiel
Yeah.
earlier this morning. That just blew my mind. I never heard about that in Sunday school. But why are they here? I mean, what about us is so important to them? We're such a primitive, stupid, idiot race. Why do they care about us?
Well, because
What about
they probably created us.
Oh,
That's what my
Yeah, that's
fiance
why.
okay.
says
That's
all the
Well,
because they
now
time.
because
you
they
use
created us.
you
And you
just
go
use
back
that
and
word though. You
you
use
look
that word they. Which they?
in the Bible in Genesis 6 in the Hebrew it's the Elohim said, "Let us create man in our image." Elohim is plural, so it means more than one. So I don't
Okay.
know which one, but they were sitting around talking in a council. So
Hmm.
there was more than one creator. And so Zachariah Stitchen's works with Anunnaki talks about this. He was a Sumerian scholar. And so now that is not to say that there may not be a God. The Palladians talk about gods, small g, and then this larger thing, which they call creation. Interesting that some Native American tribes call the Great Spirit the creator, but it's very different from the way we use the words. But probably we were created. We were created by them.
Dungeon Dan.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I absolutely love that you went there because I had wondered about that if it really was talked about in the Bible, and because I haven't had time to research anything like that for myself. So I love that you talk about it, and you even went back to the Hebrew, which is exactly that's how I know you've researched this because
But the
you know
Hebrews got it from the Sumerians. Uh,
yeah,
You're
and
right.
it goes back
yeah,
even further than
but
that,
but
and
they talk about these gods that created us, and we talk about
plural.
yes, and
Yes,
whether the Greek gods. See, and that's why people. And that's probably why governments and religions, because it blows everything they say off the table. If you're saying a God created us, and the records and the literature is saying no, they were extraterrestrial gods they were godlike to these primitive human beings, that blows
exactly.
everything out of the water.
It really
Mm-hmm.
does. There
Uh,
goes your
uh,
10% tithing
and
Yep.
so and if you look at the Book of Enoch expands on Genesis. These brothers came down, man, and
and
they saw these women, they were fine, and
yes,
they said,
Right.
"I'm going to get me some of that."
seraphims.
And they wound up making these babies who were had 6 fingers, and I think David fought one of them named Goliath,
Yeah,
and then
Ah,
and it got to be a hot mess. And Genesis 6 though goes even further in the book. The Book of Enoch expands
Mm-hmm.
on Genesis 6, and Enoch walked with God, the gods. He was their scribe, a little administrative thing going on. And he said that 200 of them came down and landed on Mount Horeb. I forget where that is in the Middle East. And they taught us astronomy, astrology, how to
yeah,
work with crystals and gemstones. They taught
math,
us how to work with dyes and to make clothing, and taught
alchemy.
us how to make weapons. And
Yes,
apparently that broke the prime directive. It was a no-no.
it was. I read
And
that part
so
in
there you
Enoch.
go. But you also have to remember that there were other groups of extraterrestrials in other parts of the world. When you go to
Right.
India and you see Krishna, Krishna is blue, like this Arcturian here. Now, I'm not saying Krishna was an Arcturian, but you got to remember it may have been grays over here, and some of the grays may be bioengineered. They may just be synthetic. They may not even be real. It's just a robot, like their technology
Got
is.
it. Yeah.
But the Greys are over here, Nordics over here, or maybe the reptilian. I mean, they're all over.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you say they, you always have, it's like saying again, what do black people want? Well, which black people are you talking about? The ones in Germany, the ones here? So you gotta start thinking a little more in sophisticated ways, and that's not even sophisticated. That's just common sense.
Yeah,
I
hell
love
yeah.
it.
You know,
Now, Michael.
you can't paint everybody with the same brush.
Now, Michael, I got a question for you. This is going to be a bit of an interesting one. Now, do you believe there are secret civilizations from these aliens, secret civilizations that we don't know anything about, but that they could be here, or they were any civilization that came before the Sumerians, or
Oh, of course, yeah. Oh, that's the whole thing about the history is that we've been this planet. First of all, this planet has come and gone, been destroyed, and it's come and gone.
Okay.
Also, remember there was a time when, I mean, you look, Atlantis, Lemuria,
Atlantis, yeah, that's
okay, so which was thousands of years before, and there were probably civilizations before
okay.
that. But
Uh,
remember, there's also the
all
continents.
right.
The continents were closer together. The
Mm-hmm.
continents were closer together. So
Right.
we're just thinking like everything was like this way back then. So everything we knew is up for grabs. So in answer to your question, Angelus,
Uh-huh.
I don't know, but I say
Like,
anything is possible now. Now we know that
yeah.
everything's on the table because mostly everything we've been taught has been a lie or just wrong.
All right.
All right. Well, now my friend Crystal, I was talking to her this morning, and I was telling her about having you on the show today, and she knows who you are. She's seen some episodes of Ancient Aliens with you on it, and she's really excited about getting to watch the episode. Unfortunately, she doesn't do Facebook, so she's going to have to wait for Richard to get it up onto YouTube, and then she'll be checking it out. But she got to bringing up something that she had found about how unicorns were actually mentioned in the Bible, and
They are, but I don't remember where. You can Google it. Just Google unicorns in the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't remember where, but yeah, I remember seeing the word. Well, the word Pleiades is in the Bible.
mm-hmm.
You know,
So
it's
now,
in the
but
book of Job.
where do you think they went? Could they have been part like of an alien? Like that was their pets? Like how we have horses? Maybe they had.
I don't know if they were pets. I mean, again, Jack, anything is possible. I do know that what we're finding out is that there was a lot of bioengineering and people with the head of a of a bird and the body of a body. I mean, there was a lot of experimentation going on. Probably the first human beings didn't look anything like you and I look now. Sure, they were anthropomorphic. So maybe they were giants or what have you. So those are just mysteries, but there was a lot of experimentation going on with these scientists, these extraterrestrial scientists.
So that's
So
how we could have wound up with, say, the Minotaur, for example.
exactly, or the centaur.
Yes.
What
Yeah, and
about
I bring
Sasquatch?
that up. Oh, yeah, Sasquatch, another good one.
Yes.
I think that might be something that might have been bioengineered because I mean, there's been theories about Sasquatch, which I believe in, by the way, uh, being an alien race or maybe some.
There's a lot of talk about that. I just came from a conference in Michigan 10 days ago. I spoke, and there were people talking about that. There's an unusual amount of UFO activity wherever Bigfoot is found. Some people have said they've seen Bigfoot get off of a craft. So, you know, the sky's the limit.
I've heard the same with dogmen too, like the werewolf sightings
Yeah.
coincide with UFO sightings as well. Wow.
Yeah.
Oops.
I'm looking
Hitting
at
buttons over
Jeff's
here.
thing. Yeah. I mean, I haven't
Yep.
read
Yeah,
the
I think
book.
we're all reading it.
Yeah.
But
Well, he is
Jeff
a writer, so.
and he is a wealth of information on almost anything. And
yeah.
he loves we're gonna get with you after this show to get you on his show too. So
Yes.
That'd be great.
yeah,
It'd be great.
that one is fun, but he's also, I think you two would definitely have a lot to chat
You
about.
would. Yeah, he's really enjoying seeing you on
He
here.
really is
Like,
loving
I
this
wanna
show.
talk to this
He's a
guy.
philosopher.
Yes,
He is, and he loves it. And
Yeah,
he says
He's
he
a
rules at
philosopher.
Trivial Pursuit.
No, he's a philosopher. And
There you go.
you need but we need, and this is what I'm saying, we need the philosophers.
Yes.
We need open people from the military. We need that because we bring each other together. We need the teachers. We need all that. And that's the beauty of this show. I'll tell you what else was beautiful, and it's starting to happen. When I was in Michigan, it wasn't just a UFO conference. There were people there talking about Bigfoot and ghosts and UFOs because they're all the paranormal. They're all related, and
Oh, yeah.
usually we stay in our silos. Well, we're not going to talk about that at this conference. No, it's all related. And again, we talked about what's diversity. Diversity obviously is race and gender and class and all that, but it's also diversity of thought. It's plurality of thought, where ideas, whether you like them or not, they're in. I mean, not unless they're destructive, but they're in the marketplace, and we get to talk about them. We get to debate them. That's what is. Um, that's what all this is about.
Dungeon Dan just asked us a pretty straightforward question.
Why would you do that? I'm enjoying myself. But I mean, obviously, you got 30 minutes because I got to have dinner. My daughter's here, and I got to fly out to LA tomorrow after the service.
Yeah, you're a
But
busy man.
I love this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's been busy. This year's been busy.
That's great.
Okay, Jeff says, I like Mel Brooks' idea of the stand up philosopher. I think
Yes.
today's best philosophers are comedians. Just consider George Carlin. And
Yeah.
to me, that is one that I truly
Yes.
back. George
Yeah,
Carlin was
yeah.
the genius.
Because with humor, you can get a message across.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And
People are more
probably-
receptive.
And probably in other lifetimes, if you had more humor, maybe we wouldn't have been killed. Because sometimes you got to meet people at their map of the world. You can be right and wrong, because if you're not meeting people where they are, you can get not on extremes. Yeah, back in the old days, and even now, you could get hurt. But if you can't reach people, what's the point of being right in the first place?
Right?
Mhm.
Exactly. He said, make them laugh and they'll listen.
Yeah.
It's very true. And you've done a great job of that today, by the way, too, man. I mean, your personality just explodes
Yeah, we love it.
onto the screen, man.
We love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Gotta
like
be
humor.
loving
I
it.
like humor. I like to laugh. I mean, you can't take yourself too seriously.
Agreed.
Exactly. Now, being a reverend, how often do you have to deal with people coming to you with like really hard questions, where even you might consider like, I don't really know if I should even try to answer this because I don't know if I can.
Every week. I mean, I have an older congregation. Our median age is 67. And there's some times where people will come to me and I'll say, I can put a Band-Aid on the wound, but maybe you need to go to a psychiatrist. Maybe you need to go to maybe you need some medication for that or what have you. I have no problem saying I don't know or referring people if it's above my pay grade.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I love about being a minister. I love the Sundays, but I love visiting people in the hospital. I spent a lot of time in hospitals when I was younger, and when I'm off, you can always get a good speaker. I mean, we get good speakers on the Sundays I'm off, but it's more to it to being a minister than just speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sitting in my office a couple months ago, and I was just looking around, and I realized that I had created it. When I was a kid, I said, I saw myself sitting in my office with my 2 degrees or 3 degrees here, and people coming to me, and I'm giving them counsel or I'm giving them energy, and it was in my head, and it came true. It came true because I envisioned it. And I think it's just very powerful that we're really more powerful than we think we are. I tell you what else happened to me Friday. I go swimming at 5:30 in the morning at the Y here. I swim a mile 4 times a week. At 5:15, I got out of my car and I looked up because it was a clear night, morning, and I saw a shooting star. I've never seen a shooting star before. It was so beautiful, and it
Oh, I
had a
love it.
tail. It had a tail, and I was like, "Wow!" And if I blinked, I
You
mean,
would
I
have missed
can't
it.
say it's a good
Yeah,
open,
gone.
or whatever, but it was just beautiful. About 6 months ago, I was driving and I saw an owl. I've never seen an owl, and it was just looking at me, and I drove right by it, and I drove real slow, and I said, "Hey," and I tell you, good things have happened since I saw this brother or sister just kind of on the bench, just looking at me. Big owl. So I look for little things like that, the little synchronicities, and I take solace in them.
I found myself doing that a lot ever since I had the blood clots I had several years ago, which for most people didn't, are working on me, didn't even think I was going to survive, and if I did,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have much of a quality of life. Fast forward now, here I'm sitting here getting to do this with all you guys, so I'm like you on that. I look at the little things like, wow, that was really cool. Holy crap,
Yeah.
but stuff that in the past I would have just ignored. I would have literally not paid any attention to it.
Uh-huh.
It would just been like a thing,
And
and
so the
now
blood clot is a blessing. It opened your eyes.
If you'd been friends with a Nordic, they could have cured that blood clot without them having to operate
Just
on you.
standing right next to him.
They
yeah.
they healed my blood clot. I had a blood clot.
Yeah, I had two of them. They were separated by about 3 months, and then
Ooh.
after the last one, when trying to get in my bed one night, my incision came apart, and so they had to try to put me back together again,
Yeah,
which they didn't think they did such a good job. Turns out they did a great job,
they did a great job.
you know. But it's stuff like that that makes me appreciate those little things, like you said. In fact, March of 2020, the apartment complex I lived in took an EF3 tornado straight to the face. One big old punch. And, we walked away from that. And from the moment I walked out of that apartment to today, I have become a completely different person than I was before it. Like
Mhm.
the guy 24 hours before and 24 hours later, totally different dude. Do you think that stuff like that has any spirituality to it,
Yeah.
or is that just a shock value?
No, well, it's both. But a lot of spiritual things do shock you, and I'm glad you brought that up
Mhm.
because I was just going to say that you don't have to have an OBE or an NDE or somebody from another planet come and tell you. You can have these experiences while making love. I mean, this is what the Hindus do with the Kama Sutra. You can have these experiences by watching the sunset or jogging. You don't have to. It doesn't have to be so grandiose or dramatic that you had something in your life that was life altering
Mhm.
and you're a different person from it. And that's the spiritual transformation. But it doesn't always have to be from an ET or, I died and I went out of my body and I saw Muhammad or Jesus I mean, those things will do it.
Or Joe Pesci?
They'll
Yes.
do it. Yeah. Yes.
Joe
Or
Pesci.
Joe Pesci.
Going back on the George Carlin thing there. I'm
But,
afraid of Joe Pesci.
yeah, and so there you are. And it changed you. Now, you may not use the word spiritual, but you don't want the words to get in the way. But
It's
it
just
changed you.
semantics.
But
And
it
it
did
opened your
something.
eyes and you see deeply and you see deeper. And that's what it's all about. Because some people have eyes and they don't see. Some people have ears and they really don't hear.
There's a lot of people that don't
Okay, as
listen.
Jeff just said, Mother Nature will absolutely show you both how wonderful the earth is and how insignificant you are upon it.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Now I got a
She has a
question.
knack for that.
I know you don't
Yes,
have all the answers to this, and I'm not assuming that you do, but yeah, in reference like I've had a few paranormal experiences, ghost type, poltergeist kind of stuff, and possibly demonic, but that's different conversation for a different time. But
Mm-hmm.
um, hey, what's your take on angels, demons, ghosts? Is there anything extraterrestrial about them, or is that something separate?
I want to be clear. I know people say they see angels with wings. I believe they exist. I believe the universe is teeming with life. In my view, at least with the Bible, nowhere in the Bible does it say angels have wings. I believe that, and I'm going to answer every part of that question. I believe that our ancestors were trying to say these beings flew, so they
mm-hmm.
put wings on them. The demonic part, I don't believe in the demonic. I believe there are realms we don't understand. I believe I was raised, Brother Rose, with the universe was a big scoreboard. It was God versus the devil. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, either God is all powerful or God isn't.
Exactly.
And it was I was taught that the God was all powerful, but the devil was giving him a run for his money, and it was always a him. So I think the demonic is just an energy that we don't understand. That people do evil things. if you want to look at evil. I don't particularly believe in evil because I believe in reincarnation. So all debts get paid. They may get paid in another life, but they get paid. I think the demonic is something that we don't understand. I think people do demonic things. Hitler, Pol Pot, but
Dahmer.
I
That's
believe
a
in
big
love.
thing right now.
And I don't believe that it's just love. We can choose different ways. And I'm not naive. So I don't think I am. So, but I think I was taught that everything was split. These were good. That was bad. This was, and they all agree. It's like the Tao symbol. There's a little light in the dark and there's a little dark in the light. Now, if you're asking me, do I believe that there are demonic forces that can be harmful and you want to use it? Yeah, I remember I went to someone's house. She was a little crazy clinically. I was a chaplain at this hospital in New York, and this woman she was Catholic, and she talked about demons and what have you. And so we always prayed, and she had the rosary and whatever. I wasn't supposed to do this, but when she got let out of the hospital, she wanted me to come visit her and pray. And usually the chaplains have said, once they go, you don't open yourself up that you go. I went. It was the middle of summer. It's 85 degrees in New York City. She lived in a welfare hotel. I opened the door. Well, she opened the door. I went in. There was something in that room that I didn't want to be there with. You could see your breath. It was so cold in her room. Outside,
Wow.
it was 85 degrees. In that room, it was freezing.
30, yeah, about 32.
I got in there. I did some Hail Marys, and I'm not Catholic. I said the Lord's Prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I got out. Okay, so there are stuff you don't want to play with because you don't know about. I agree with that. I do, but I try not to be split because, like, depression and joy can't exist in the same space together. Love and evil can't either. So I'm trying to focus on that part. And I know a lot of stuff we call evil, it's just some stuff we don't understand. I've
Well,
had some experiences, Brother Rose, of beings that I know did not want to sing Kumbaya with me. But I navigated it.
Are these
well
like
now,
I hope that
interdimensional?
answers your question a little. I'm sorry, Jen.
Are these like interdimensional beings then? Like,
I don't know. I know they exist, and maybe yeah, I would say they're interdimensional because they could come in and out of my
yeah.
reality.
Okay.
So,
Sorry,
but
Jack. I
like
didn't
I
mean to
said,
interrupt you.
it's just so much stuff. It's so much life out there.
Right. Right.
well now, my friend Yimam, he's from Ethiopia. He
Mhm,
lives in the States now. He works at a printing company I used to work at. He's Muslim, but
mhm,
based on his specific religion type, they don't believe in schizophrenia
mhm,
or bipolarism or anything like that.
Mm.
In those cases, what they say it is demonic possession on some
mhm,
level.
mhm.
That they think if you got a schizophrenic person that's hearing voices and seeing things, it's a demon in them that's doing that to them. What do you think about
I
that?
don't. It's a complicated thing. I think that there are entities that we don't understand. I just try to stay away from. Um, Let me go. Einstein said that the most important question you can ask yourself is the universe a friendly place? Because the way you answer that question is the way you're going to live your life. I look at the universe in its totality as a friendly place and love. That's not to say that there's other things and other beings there that are coming from a different worldview. So I don't know, but I know it's real. And I know that's all I can say about that. There's some people who will say that what they're saying is superstition. I don't believe that either, but I just don't believe that it's purely demonic because then when you start labeling things demonic, especially in our realm, you lose the humanity
Yeah, so that's a
of
big
the
word. That's like
individual.
using the word hate. Instead of
Well,
saying I
well,
don't
and I'm
like
not trying to be
something,
politically correct. I don't even know what that really means, politically correct. But if I
we don't
say
do that around here.
you're demonic, that means I no longer see you as a human being.
Right. You're a
And I
monster.
gotta always remember that you are, even if you murdered 25 people. And so That's all I can say on that because it's out of my pay grade. I don't know anything else about. I believe that there are spirits that don't intend you well, but in general, I feel safe in the universe. There are things I don't play with. I don't play with Ouija boards and stuff like that, because you can open yourself up to things you don't understand.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean that I don't that the universe is not a place of love or
All right,
a
well,
place of yeah.
all right, well, real quick, just because I think this is kind of funny, reincarnation could be a problem for me. I'm having too much fun in this life. It could take several more lives to make proper atonement. To which Jeff responds, "Yeah, there were definitely some times in the '70s, then the '80s, and the '90s, and I'm screwed." So
They're both
yeah,
going to hell in a handbasket.
yeah, and these are the people we call friends, by the way.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
run around with these crazy folks. So yeah, but like I said, I have actually found this all really extremely interesting because the fact, like I said, I'm an atheist, which technically means I don't really believe in anything. I don't believe in aliens. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in possession. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in the devil. I don't believe in any of it. And yet, it is still some of the best conversation that I can have because it's so fascinating to me.
Well, let me ask you a question, Jeff, because I know we're running out of time. And Unitarian Universalism, we had this issue as well. What do you believe in?
I believe in essentially, we'll just start with the easy first answer to that, the Big Bang. And then, microbes evolved into, which evolved into, which evolved into, and now here we are standing here. I believe that dinosaurs existed. They once roamed the earth. I believe that the asteroids, the meteors hit the earth, wiped them out, and yet life
Okay,
found a way to take that from Jurassic
okay,
Park.
okay, okay. But I'm not just talking about that up in your head. What do you believe in here?
In my heart, I believe that people
Do you believe in love? Do you
fundamentally,
believe in,
yes, absolutely. I believe
what
that
what what, what do you stand for?
people fundamentally are good. A good example, if you take two-year-old children, one black, one white, put them out on a playground together, they're going to play. They're going to have fun. They're going to run around and laugh and joke and have a good time together.
Yes,
The problem is what we teach them as
yes,
the years go by. The white parent teaching the white kid that, well, you can't trust this kid because he'll steal from you. Then the black parent teaching the black kid, well, you can't trust that white person because they'll steal from you. And then that creates the situation to where these two kids grow up to be adults that don't like the other race. And I hate that. And I'm not using the wrong word there. I hate that, especially being somebody from the deep South. I don't have a racist bone in my body. Now, do I occasionally get irritated with people if they start acting stereotypical? Well, yeah, it's a human reaction. I'm going
right,
to react a
right,
certain
right,
way.
right,
But
right.
on
No,
the on
I just wanted to hear what you believed in that way because a lot of times it's just easy to get in, and we can talk about this all day, but
mhm.
and maybe we will in the next show. But I just want to know what you believe in because a lot of times we define ourselves by what we don't believe,
Yeah,
and
and see, and
that's
for me,
so. I want to know
I
what you
believe
believe.
I believe that we can go through life being awesome to each other and
Mhm,
take care of each other,
mhm.
protect each other, and be happy and not have to have all the extra stuff.
Well, this is what Einstein was saying. Basically, I hear you saying that you believe the universe is a friendly place,
Yeah.
and that's what's crucial. Again, because that's the way you're going to walk through the world. But if you're fear based and you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, or we talked about some people in governments and stuff like that, then that's what life is going to present to you. And so, um, you know, it's good to hear that. I know with my congregation, a lot of people left the church, whether it was Catholic or Baptist or whatever, because they didn't like the division. And so they wound up identifying themselves about what they don't believe. My job as their minister is to find out what is it that you do believe. So you're not defining yourself in the negative, you're defining yourself in the positive. This is what I stand for. This is as far as I'll go. This is what I believe in. This is what I'll live and die for. That's why I
You
was
know,
at.
and like you were saying earlier, having the ability to admit I'm wrong, that's something I'm good at because I'm wrong, unfortunately, probably more often than I'm right in a lot of cases.
Yeah,
And I take that and I
we
learn
all are.
from it. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, okay, well, okay, I feel like a dummy right now, but I build off of it, and I try to take that to get me to another platform and just keep growing me. But now we've talked a lot about like, there's been some alternate dimension stuff and with aliens being able to travel the way they do. With Marvel being so big right now, with the whole, the superhero stuff going on, do you think there could be an actual multiverse where there's like 15 or 1,000 or an infinite number
Well,
of
people are
each of
talking about
us?
that. Yes, people talk about that now. I know some people who don't even use the term universe anymore
Mm,
because the galaxy is so big.
yeah.
Well, the Milky Way. I mean, and so it is a multiverse. Yeah, yeah. I mean, science is telling us that. Some science is telling us
Well,
that
why
we
did
live in
I?
a multiverse.
Why did I have to wind up being the skinny, ugly version of myself? Why couldn't I have been that sexy one that I know is out there just killing it with the ladies?
Well, in
Ah.
in the multiverse, we're living several lifetimes at once. Like right here,
Oh,
I'm
So
talking to you now.
in some
In
other
another universe,
universe,
I may be
you
somewhere
really
else.
are a tall, buff meathead that no one likes anyways either.
the chicks dig me.
Congratulations. And in another universe, I'm nicer to you.
Yeah.
It's a
I think
Oh,
win.
Brother Rose has a question.
real
Did you
quick,
have a question?
quick shout out to Richard. Speaking of which, Richard, halfway through Wild Eyed, love it so far.
Well,
So,
thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And let me know how you what you think about it when you're done. I appreciate that.
and write a damn review.
Yeah, please write a review. Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, it was Lee Edwards, by the way.
Lee Edwards. Okay, thank you, Lee.
And in fact, that's something I think we need to get. Odd question. When you're not, dealing with the stuff that you're so focused on, your knowledge and everything, do you have any like loves outside of all that? Like good fiction, like a good zombie tale or anything like that that you like to
No,
read
you
or
know
listen to?
what? Yeah, do I read? I like sci-fi. I just started getting into sci-fi. I love swimming. I love hanging out with my daughter. That's why I'm going to go soon. I know we're almost done. We're going to go to dinner. I want to have dinner with her before I fly out west. I got a lovely lady in my life. I do like to travel, and I like to sit around and do nothing. I like to be in nature. Um, my reading tastes are all over the place, but I do like philosophy and sci-fi and history, some history. So yeah, I think I live a pretty well-rounded life. Um, I do yoga, I meditate, um, and as I'm getting older, I just turned 65 in July, so I'm on Medicare now, which I highly recommend.
Well, hey, happy
Um,
belated birthday.
Yes,
Thank you.
happy belated birthday.
Yeah, I just I'm learning to take life as it comes and to enjoy it and you know, not get caught up in too small stuff. I have my issues. My partner can tell you that, but we work through them and I'm enjoying the journey because I know that probably, well, could be even sooner, but in 30, 35 years, I'll be gone. And so this is the time in my life where if whatever's going to be, it's going to be now.
Well, heck yeah. Well, hell, I may have to get Richard and Jennifer to hook you up with copies of their books. Well, once Jennifer's comes out and gets, the whole thing
I'd
going
love,
on.
I'd love it.
But now,
I'd love
I honestly, what would be your thoughts on the idea of humans and Sasquatches teaming up to fight a zombie invasion?
I think it would sell. I think it would sell. I think all this kind of stuff that I'll give you an example real quick, and then I'm going to have to start winding down.
Hmm.
I'm going to do this show tomorrow called America's Greatest Mysteries. Lawrence Fishburne is the host. So
Hmm.
it's been on for a couple seasons.
And will you get to
But
meet him, by the way?
I don't know if he's going to be there.
Oh, it'd be so cool if he did.
Yeah, it's always nice when you get to meet them. Um, but I'm saying they're doing a show and they're talking about the Phoenix Lights, but they're talking about everything we're talking about. I just found out today that Unsolved Mysteries is doing a reboot,
Ooh,
and
cool.
they're going to be doing a show, an episode on experiencers who've had positive experiences. I say all that to say that the time is now. Collectively, people are ready for this stuff. And so, if you're writing anything like that, if you're producing anything like that, this is the time. This is the time.
Good to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes it very. In
You
fact,
got
that
a winner there, Richard.
yeah, say that banner hanging behind him is the cover for book one of
Yeah.
Wild Eyed Southern Boys,
This
which is
is
set
this
in
is
town. It's set in
Sasquatch and
Townsend,
humans.
Tennessee.
this is the time. This is the time. I came back from a conference. There were people there. I was talking about UFOs. There were some other people talking about UFOs. There were speakers talking about Sasquatch. There were people there talking about seeing ghosts and stuff. People are hungry for it. So if you got a project, this is the time to do it. For the, I don't know how long this window's going to open, but this would be the time.
All right, James Dean, who is Jennifer's crush, Maximus.
I
He's
fangirl every time he shows up.
Yeah, he's
does he?
talking about the string theory. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
Yep.
and science in the multiverse. Yeah, yeah. This is the time for all these ideas to be out there, and people are discussing them. And there's a lot of truth out there, and the world is going to change. I mean, even dealing with UFOs, we're dealing the old physics is done, and it's taking us a long time to catch up because that's who we are. I'm talking about our leaders in science, but that Newtonian stuff, it's done. It served its purpose.
Fantastic. Well, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up then, since we got to set a pause moment. But we're definitely got to have you on again because there's so much more that we can get
Absolutely.
into
Yeah,
without
let me
question.
know. Let me know. I'm going to be out of town for this weekend, and I'm getting married on the weekend of November 7th.
Okay.
So probably any time after that, going into
Okay.
the holidays or after the first of the year,
Yeah, it'll
I'd
definitely
be
be after
more.
the first of the year because
I'd
we're
be more
Yeah,
booked
than
we're
on
ready.
into March.
yeah.
So I'm wishing you guys a wonderful holiday season.
You as
Same
well.
to
Um,
you.
to
You
stay
too.
healthy and to stay on the love train, and don't let people take away your joy. Thank you for this ministry that you're doing, and I hope to see you in a couple months.
All right. Well, the way I always wrap these things up, Jennifer Amato, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Amazon. My book is up for pre-release orders right now. It will release out on November 10th, which is my birthday. So let's make this a year to
Congratulations.
remember. Thank you. It's my first one.
Congratulations,
It's
Scorpio.
the group Jana, and the group is the series name Jana.
The devil has paused her.
Yeah, he did. Look at that. Didn't want her to get her stuff out there. What the heck just happened? Oh, well, I guess in the meantime, Richard Ryan Rose, along with that lovely wife, Pat, where can we find you, brother?
Yeah, well, you can find Jennifer on Amazon, and I'm sure it'll be on Goodreads and everything. So since she
Oh,
can't
yeah.
speak for herself, but
There she is.
there she is.
Sorry.
That's all
My
right.
internet's wonky. Sometimes I apologize. Anyways, you can also go to my website, jenamatoauthor.net, and you can find me on Facebook, Jen Amato Author. Jen is with two N's, not just one. That's it.
Oh,
Sorry.
and are you selling T-shirts and stuff? Like, can people go buy that stuff somewhere?
Yeah, I have t-shirts on my website.
Good
Cool.
deal.
So yeah, just message me if you want one, and it's they're up there.
I'm telling you, Michael, you would look good in a Written Undead T-shirt. Just saying.
Thank you.
All right, then, Mister Richard Ryan Rose, break it
Okay,
down
so
for us, brother.
yeah, I'll break it down real quick. Yeah, of course, there's my Facebook page, Richard R. Rose, author, and then Richard R. Rose. .com, my website. You can find me on Amazon, Goodreads, Audible, iTunes, all that good stuff. Wild Eyed Southern Boys and the Rougarou War, Wild Eyed Southern Boys prequel, and the where you can find me in person will be this coming weekend, October 14th through the 16th at the Texas Bigfoot Conference. I'll have a table set up there, so if you want a signed copy, it'd be a good time to get one. If you already have a copy and need it signed, I'll sign it for free. Come on down.
Heck yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a fantastic show today with Reverend Michael J. Carter. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, this goes to prove to everyone that, yeah, I may be an atheist, but you know what? This is all fascinating to me. I
Mhm.
loved every second of it. It was awesome. So thank you, first off, sir.
Thank you.
And secondly, where can everybody find you?
They can find me at michaeljscarter.com is my website. My book's on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. And some new episodes of Ancient Aliens should start coming out, 15th season, probably between now and December. And keep looking up.
Nice. Well, for
Right.
Richard Ryan Rose, Jennifer Amato, and our awesome guest this week, we lost Angel. He'll be back. He flutters in, flutters out. It happens.
Comes in, comes and goes.
But for Reverend Michael J. Carter, we will see you guys next week on the Written Undead podcast. Peace out.
Peace out.